we'll go ahead and we will go ahead and call to order the Wednesday, January 14th, 2026, Solon City Council special meeting. Focus on the budget. Yeah, with that, let's start with the roll call. Farlinger here. Gordon? Yeah. Kramer?
Yes.
Max? Here. Morris?
Yes.
Actually, we'll do perfect and approve the agenda. Any changes to the agenda?
Nope, no changes.
I'll move to perfect and approve the agenda.
Second. Motion by Farlinger, second by Morris. Farlinger?
Yes.
Gordon?
Yeah.
Kramer?
Yeah.
Mac?
Yeah.
Morris?
Yes.
All right, takes us to the fiscal year 27 budget. Okay, we'll turn it over to you.
Sure.
Numbers.
Thank you and welcome. Appreciate your patience. Budget's usually a pretty hectic season and appreciate everyone's help helping me get ready for tonight's meeting. And appreciate everybody settling in for the evening because this evening gets a little long. So that's why it's best to just make sure we're all well fed and can kind of get through as much information as possible tonight. So what traditionally we do is kind of do away with the laptops and just kind of go back to paper. People like to take notes. You're going to be flipping back and looking at some of this information multiple times. And so this is a way to kind of just follow along, take notes, and have that information to reference through these next few weeks. So we're going to start tonight with the PowerPoint. Everybody has a copy of the PowerPoint, but I'm also going to show it on the screen as we talk through. And then you can take notes or ask questions as we go through. And want to start the conversation talking about property tax because we usually always take revenues first and then talk about expenditures. We like to talk about how much money we have coming in and then figure out how much money can go out. In Iowa, property taxes are the primary source of income for cities. And so that's usually where the conversation begins, is talking about property tax. So property tax in Iowa has some unique features. They're at the residential rates in the residential category and the agricultural category are tied together. Historically, back in the 70s, the legislation felt it was important that the taxable growth of agricultural and residential properties maintain within the same percentage area. So back in the day, it was about 6-8%. In recent years, that's now 3%. They want to make sure that they are within 3% of taxable growth. In addition to that, they added a coupling provision that says that if let's say residential grows 4% and agriculture grows 2%, then they both can't grow more than that 2%, whatever the lower one is. So there's this odd percentage that ties agricultural and residential property, and this coupling measure that has been in place for several years. So in Iowa, because property tax has such a big role in cities, it's important to kind of understand how big of a role it plays. So in this first slide, it shows that for FY25, which just ended in June 30th, that's our last full year of data. So most of these slides reference FY25. So in all the cities in Iowa, property tax makes up for 54% of their revenues. So property tax obviously is playing a big role in Iowa cities. Then the next slide shows property tax by class. So there's various classes of property taxes: residential, commercial, ag, industrial, utilities, and railroads. And again, residential is primarily the largest part of the pie there. Then once those property taxes come in, whether they're commercial, whether they're residential, whether they're ag, then they get, go to the agencies that collect levies. And this is how those property taxes were distributed in FY 25. 40% went to schools, 30% to cities, 22% to counties, and 22% to other. So, it's important to, you have a piece of paper, it's one of your first pieces of papers that has a yellow line that goes across it. When we talk about other, so there's various agencies that have the ability to, levy property taxes, not just the city, not just the school, not just the county. So this is our current year right now. And so if you look at Solon, you can see that the county, the assessor, the Ag Extension Council, area school, state of Iowa, then the various school, and then city, and then township cemeteries, all of those make up everybody's property taxes. It's not just the city's portion. As you look under the city total, where it says 11.01255, that's the city's portion of your property taxes. So your total property taxes that we're paying here in the city of Solon, is $35.72 per $1,000 of valuation, and $11.01 of that comes to the city. So this is important to understand, because when people get their tax bill, we're usually the first stop that they make. Why are my city taxes so high? And this is an important tool to help people understand that the city's just one piece of the property tax bill that people pay. And where that money goes is represented on this pie chart. So you pay your taxes, and then this is how it gets distributed. And then this shows even more detail, which is specific to Solon residents. And then it obviously just shows all of the cities in the county as well, if you're interested. And that's for this current fiscal year. So property taxes have categories. They have ag, commercial, industrial, railroad, residential. And so this next slide shows what the FY 26, sorry, too far. What the rollbacks are for FY 26, our current year, and what they're going to be for next year. Obviously, there's quite a bit of change in agricultural. However, we have very little ag land in the city limits, so it really impacts us very little. As a whole, the lower the rollback, the less dollars coming to the city. The higher the rollback, the more dollars coming to the city. The flip side of that is a resident, the lower the rollback, potentially the less property taxes you pay, but we'll go through that in a minute. And the higher the rollback, the higher property taxes you're going to pay, but that's not always true, as we'll look at here shortly. So for commercial, industrial, and railroad, those used to be 100%. So you have your 100% of your taxes, and then you have your taxable rate of your taxes. So you have another page here that it says Iowa Department of Management on the top. And there should be something on both sides. I got two different pages, but you got something on each side or two different pages? Both sides. Okay. So, and then there's an X that shows, so that shows Solon. So this is an example of why these rollbacks make a difference. So if you look at the page that, had, let's see, it says, the last line at the top says, not for computing FY 26 and 27 levy taxes. And the X by the Solon regular is, $47 million. $475 million, I'm sorry. Okay, that's our 100%. So if we didn't have a rollback, the city of Solon has $475 million of valuation of property. That's combined, residential, commercial, it's everything combined. But if you flip it over and you look at Solon regular, it says 191,265,000. That's our taxable valuation. So while we have $475 million in property in the city of Solon, people are only taxed on the 191 million. So that's why.
That is why,
Well, why is that?
yeah,
That is because of the rollback.
okay,
Yeah.
that's what I thought.
That is because of the rollback. So that's why when you see commercial property and industrial property and a railroad getting taxed at 90%, well, and residential is only getting taxed at 44%, big difference. That's why you hear a lot of talk about businesses in Iowa and the property taxes. Now, there's something that's fairly new in recent years. That is a change to commercial, industrial, and railroad, that instead of the whole valuation being taxed at 90% of the 100%, the first 150,000 of the valuation of the property, not the business, the property is taxed at residential, whatever the residential rollback is. And then anything above that is taxed at the 90. So it gets complicated. If you were gonna apply the rollback of the 44, or I'm sorry, the 44 to these numbers, it doesn't come out exactly. That's because there are military exemptions, there's homestead exemptions, there's 65 and older exemptions, there's business credits. There's various exemptions out there that happen between the 100% and this taxable valuation that we get. So that just kind of helps explain why the rollback is so important. And what that rollback is kind of the key for cities to be able to understand how we're going to be able to fund our budget for the following year. So we wait on pins and needles every November. What is that rollback going to be? Is it going to be more or less of the current rollback? Well, here it's less, which means, again, less rollback is less dollars coming to the city. So anybody have any questions about that? And that's really important to understand the foundation of these levy rates, and when people talk to you about their valuation, so you can understand, what that rollback means and what it means personally to their property taxes.
Give me one thing, if you're gonna get to it, stop me, and I'll wait on that. But when you think valuation, so the county assessor determines the value of the properties. So this is from a lot of complaints that you'll probably hear about our taxes. And the city has zero control over what your property value is assessed at. That's the county assessor does that. The rollback is determined by the state. And so a lot of.
Excuse me, Dan, is that done yearly? It is, right?
Yes.
The rollback is yearly. The assessor, I believe they do their assessments, it's every other year. Can't remember if it's odd or even years, but, so what the city has the impact on is the levy. And oftentimes the levy is impact based on the rollback. So 2 years ago, it's the first time we were ever over $11. I think it was 11.21 2 years ago. Based on how the rollback was last year, we were able to lower our levy by 20 cents to 11.01. But people paid more in property tax, even though the levy came down based on that rollback. So there's lots of factors that go into it with it, and just wanted to
Yeah.
kind of talk through that, but.
Yeah, thank you. This slide shows the history, the orange line, the bottom line is really kind of the line I wanted to highlight, and this shows the history of the rollback. Since 1977 when it was implemented. So as you can see, the lower it goes is less dollars coming to cities. So it historically has been on the downward slope the last 3 to 4 years because there's been a big focus at the State House on property tax. So as Dan shared, there's three parts to understanding city levies. One is that the property taxes are based on valuations that is determined by the county assessor, and then the state determines the rollback. And then the third part is determining the levy rate, and the levy rate is back to that page with the yellow line. Each one of those that people are charging is called a levy rate. So the city of Solon's levy rate, right, for this year is 11.01255. So each one of those, if you hear that term, that's the levy rate that each of those entities are charging.
So a quick question.
Sure.
So right now, the rollback on residence property is at 44%. And the total levies at 35, does that mean, is that within our power then? We're saying we're only taking 35% of the 44% taxable rate?
So that is on the highlighted row, the 35, that is dollars per thousand.
Gotcha.
So that would be the taxes per $1,000 of value. So if your home is valued at $100,000, the rollback says you would pay taxes on 44.53%. So you pay taxes on 44,000. So then this levy at $35, you take $35 times 44, and that would be your taxes.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah, I got an example of that here coming up. I'm gonna come back to that slide. We'll just jump right to that. So I'm gonna come back to, because I think this is a good segue. So you have a piece of paper that looks very similar to this in your packet. It's just that it has more information than this slide. And it's exactly the example that Matt just asked about and then shared. So this shows what happens with the city's levy rate when you apply the rollback for the year and the levy rate that the city's charging, how that works out for property taxes. So on the piece of paper in front of you, you see the FY25, that's the city's levy rate was 11.21. And you see the rollback underneath was the 46.34. When you do the calculations, for every 1,000 valuation, so if your house is worth 200,000, you're going to take this times 2. So for every 100,000 assessed value, you're going to pay $519.66. Now you go to the right of that page on the upper part, and we're going to apply our current year's levy rate, which is 11.01, to the rollback of this current year. And you'll see that while here you'll see that the rollback was higher, our levy rate was lower, but taxes still increased by a few dollars. And then the lower half of that is just, again, I'm comparing FY26 to what potentially may be approved for FY27. So in that example, you'll see that while the levy rate is higher at 11.53, because the rollback is lower, it's actually reducing a person's property tax. So the assessment is the starting number. Then the rollback is applied to the assessment, and then the levy rate is applied to that taxable assessment. And that's how it's all determined. So just because a levy rate, a city levy rate is higher or lower, does not mean taxes are higher or lower because they all three work together.
With the bottom part of that too, so if the fiscal 27 is what we end up approving, the headline is gonna say tax levy goes up 50 cents per thousand. But the messaging, and that will be the headline, but the messaging will be, but your taxes will actually be lower because of the rollback. And so that's one thing, and that's, the Kimmy and staff does a great job putting together just like some one pagers that will be on the website and that we can, they'll help us with talking points where it's, again, if the levy is 11.53, why do you raise taxes 53 cents the levy per thousand? But it's the rollback, that's where that factors in on there. So taxes in this scenario will go down, total taxes will go down, even though the levy is high.
But in all of this equation, we set the levy rate.
We set the levy
Right.
rate, yeah, that's, we control the levy rate.
Yeah.
And there are limits on what we can do with the levy rate, which
Yeah.
we'll probably get to as well.
We'll get there. Any questions on the calculations on this sheet or the line? So as we move on to talking about the city levy, we have to go back to talking about our valuation. And so we get into a situation since House File 718 was passed a few years ago, where previously a growing city like Solon, that valuation of that new growth came to the city. You know, we built, you know, the houses are built here, the people are paying their property taxes here. And naturally, because those property taxes are in the city, you know, the city was able to capitalize on that. It was called, it's revenue by growth. What the state has decided is that that should be capped. That should be limited. Cities shouldn't be able to capitalize the growth in their city. And I can't tell you why that would make sense, but that's what they've decided. And so if you grow by 3% or higher, they are gonna scale back your revenue. You don't just get all the revenue from that growth. So how it works is property taxes are always 2 years behind. So we're getting everything that was built as of the end of FY25 is on the tax rolls, but it's always 18 months behind. So however much property is there, however many new houses, we would capitalize that growth. Those people would pay their property taxes. It would go into the overall calculation of our growth, and the city would, and the county, all the agencies would capitalize on that growth. Now the state has said, no, if you have grown over 6%, we're gonna roll you back. We're gonna take 3% off the top of that. We're not gonna let you have. So if we grew 9%, they're gonna ratchet us back to 6% growth. The thing is, we don't ever get to see those starting numbers between 100 and our taxable growth. So we don't know how they're making that calculation. It's not information that we get to see. So what we do get to see is that we know that we did experience significant growth, and so we were scaled back by at least 3%. So we do know that our valuations would have at least been 3% higher, which means that we would have brought in more taxes, property taxes, or taxes. We were able to access more revenue from property taxes. However, because of those calculations, we had the ratchet back applied. So there was a time that it was kind of common sense that as your city grows, you need more staff, you have more streets to take care of, you need more equipment, you have just more work and things to take care of, and that growth is helping paying, and so you're always kind of going like this. For whatever reason, that mindset has changed, and so the state feels that cities should not have full advantage of their full growth. And so as a result, we're seeing some really unusual numbers. We would typically see some pretty significant jumps in our valuation, which means that impacts how much we're gonna get back in our property tax. But as you see, from 26 to 27, very, very small increase in our valuations. And that's for two reasons. One, it's that House File 718. They've rolled us back. The other factor in this is that the more TIF that we ask for, which we asked for 799,000 this year, the more TIF we ask for, it goes like this. Your property tax, the more TIF you ask for, the lower general fund property tax you're getting. So they go like this. So if you're gonna higher TIF, you're gonna get lower general fund property tax. They move like that. So we asked for higher TIF this year because we're trying to get ourselves in a good financial position for the wastewater treatment plant. We're trying to prepay some bonds and get us in good financial position to take on that project. So the risk of that doing that is we're not capitalizing our valuation because they go like this, plus the ratchet back. So we're not seeing the jumps that we used to see, as you can look at the different amounts. That's just not gonna those aren't gonna happen in the future anymore, which is why you hear a lot of outcry from cities around the state, concerned about how they're gonna, keep their cities growing with such a rapid change of philosophy. So what we're anticipated to get in property tax in 2027 is $1.5 million. And there's a certification page that looks like it says at the top, fiscal year 21 or July 1, 2026, adoption of budget and certificate of certification of city taxes. This is how you decide what the city's property tax rate is going to be. So what the city is allowed to do is to traditionally, of that $191 million, we've been able to, as a city, ask for $8.10 of that per 1,000. With House File 718, they changed that calculation. Now they're going to what's called a consolidated general fund levy. So last year, our consolidated general fund levy was 7.86, or I'm sorry, this year it's 7.63. And this year we're able to go to the full 810. And the reason we're able to do that is because we asked for a bigger TIF amount. So it didn't and our valuations came down. So we didn't get as big of a hit or a ratchet back as we would have. So we've been allowed to stay at the 810 this year, which is good. Because now we can collect $8.10 of that 191,000 instead of the $7.63 that we're collecting this year. So we're going to get from property tax the $1.5 million. And then this next slide shows what our 2025 levy rates were, rather that the $11.21. For over a decade, we were the third lowest in the county, had the third lowest levy rate. If we stay on course with our early discussions here, let's see. And then currently we're at 11.01. For FY 26, we are the fourth lowest. University of Heights dipped down and took the third, or they were a little higher. Yeah. They dipped down under 10 and we're just over 11. So that put us in fourth. for this current fiscal year. So that gives you an idea when we're talking about the 11.01 or the 11.21 or the 11.53, why that matters and how we are comparing to the other cities in the county. All right, so I think I wanted to talk through a little bit on the certification page if everybody found it. It's not on your screen, it's just in your packet.
Do we know why University Heights went down 1.5?
I don't.
Was
No.
not paying my mic.
Uh,
I mean, that's a pretty
That
significant
is
drop,
pretty-
so I wasn't sure if you had any discussions with anybody and knew anything about that or
I
anything.
can
but
find out, but no, I can.
It's nothing urgent.
Sorry, but I would say, you look at the 3 towns lower than us, I do feel like we offer more services
More there.
of that too, so it's one of those things. that,
Absolutely.
Like, even though we weren't third, being fourth with U Heights, those Wright Hills, I still feel like we're sitting in a good spot when you look at towns, larger, small towns.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
then comparing us with the other, the bigger cities too.
I just, that's quite good. I
They
just
do a great job.
Yeah, absolutely.
They could have had some debt fall off. A lot of cities levy, put debt payments into their levy. They could have gotten ratcheted back. Like we did the last
Okay.
couple years. So there's a variety of reasons. Why that could, why that happened. I don't know.
I just, looking at it, I said, holy cow, that's quite the drop.
Yeah. Typically, when you see a drop like that, it's usually related to debt service, that they've been had a debt service levy on there for a long time and it got paid off, but I don't know. But as you look through ours, you're gonna see in column A is that 810, so we get to collect $8.10 of that 191 million. So that comes out to the 1.5 million. And then we have historically levied for property insurance, which is the next one, the $250,470. And then if you go all the way over to C, it converts that into a rate. So it was 810 for the 1.5 million, and it's a $1.30 or $1.30 for the property insurance. Then you go down to IPERS and FICA. $125,000 would be the ask for this year, which comes out to the 65 cents. And then other employee benefits, the 152,200 is city employee benefits.
So what does that entail? You see city employee benefits there.
It is health insurance, dental, vision, and life insurance.
Okay, healthcare stuff.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
And then you jump down to the last one is capital projects. That's 129,000, 0.67.5. That is a voted levy from years gone by that the voters voted to collect that levy. And it is required to go to water projects. So we collect those dollars, those go into an account specific for water use, and that is those dollars have been allocated toward the water tower in recent years. And we'll talk about that more when we get into the other details. So how we get these numbers are I budget what our projected property insurance is going to be. How I got the 250,470. I projected our FICA and IPERS, which is where we got the 125, and I projected the employee benefits at the 152,200. And then the capital projects, that's just always a standard 67.5 cents. So the variables here, the 810 is what we're allowed. And the capital project is standard. So the variables on this page are the property insurance, the FICA and IPERS, and the health benefits. And those three things we have historically levied. And to see how those have changed over the years, if you go back to this page, it shows the different years of what those were in previous years. So you can kind of see the last couple years, how that number changes, what the levy is and what the cost is. So based on the projections for this year, this is what I can, as when I plug those numbers in, the levy rate comes out to the 11.53383. And then that's also the example shown in this bottom corner is that levy rate. So that's not set in stone. These are all decisions that you get to make through this process. I just need to bring something to the table for discussion as a starting point. This next slide shows the general fund revenues. So the consolidated general levy is a big deal because the majority of the city departments are paid out of your general fund. And so the bulk of a city's operations are paid from your general fund levies, which is why there's so much talk about the general fund and the consolidated general fund levy. So if you look at what we're going to look at today is our general fund estimated revenues. And this is just a pie chart of how it's looking right now. This might change after, we go through the process and you make some different decisions. But right now, how it's looking is that 58% of the general fund revenues are coming from property tax. The next largest is license and permits, and that's because we do handle a large number of building permits. However, that's a bit of, it's not true revenue because our building permit is outsourced. Our building inspector is outsourced. So that's money that comes in, but it goes right back out. So it's not true income, even though it's revenue. And then the library, we get a contribution from the county. And garbage is another one that's an in and out. That's money that comes in, but it goes right back out because that's also outsourced. Recreation, that money stays pretty much in-house, but again, there's often instructors. It doesn't all go back out, but a good part of that, a good portion of that does go out for instructors for classes and such, though we do are fortunate to have many, many volunteer parents that help. And then interest income.
We control interest income or are we at the will of whomever?
Explain that. What are you asking?
So that's interest income.
Well,
Money sitting, we're getting 3%.
so the council has the ability to choose where that money's sitting and choose the
Okay.
interest rate. Is that what
Okay.
you're
Yeah.
asking? Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know.
But
if the
we
state-
use, but we use Heidi to do a lot of that, right?
Yeah, so Heidi, and she's gonna be here at the next meeting. She works for Northland. She's our financial advisor. So what we do is we look at how much money does the city need short term? How much can go into some CDs, and then we'll shop the CDs. We'll shop those rates. And then get the money in
We
CDs.
generally keep the CDs are generally local.
You try to stay
Stick to the
local.
county.
We try to stay local. I mean, we
As
can't
much as
lose
we
money.
can,
I
right.
mean,
No,
to be
no.
prudent, but
Everybody's has gotta be competitive.
we try to keep some local, but some
Sure.
we try to balance it, that some of it's local as long as it's a decent rate, but we still gotta have some in it getting the best rate possible. So try to find that balance. And John says we work with our financial officer, financial advisor to kind of give some guidance. And then the finance committee, you know, then we bring it to the finance committee and they kind of make the call. Okay, well, let's say, for example, you know, a local bank's given 3.5, but a bank in the area is given 4. You know, it may be that, you know, depending on, you look at the our investments as a whole. Well, do we have about half of them local, about half of them getting the best rate? That's usually the balance we're driving.
And it seems like usually, if we're getting a better rate from somewhere that's not within 50 miles, or whatever, a lot of times local banks say, we'll match it,
Sure.
just because they want the
Not surprised.
municipalities to
Not
to do with
surprised.
them as well.
The just my question was, the state of Iowa is not telling us what to do with that.
No,
That was I thought that was gonna be the answer, but I wanted to make sure I understood that.
Yeah,
And then what you're
thanks,
seeing
Rick.
up there too is with the interest income 3%, but it's not necessarily 3% interest rate, that's 3% of our total revenues
Yes,
is from
yeah.
interest.
Another thing I think it's important to know that a local bank, if we had a catastrophic situation,
Sure.
and I asked this to every one of them, if we needed to access the money before the CD was up, could we? And our local banks always say yes.
Yeah.
And
It's
that
important.
matters. That
Yes,
matters
agreed.
in the big picture. So, so that's why they may be just a little less, but being able to access the money when the city needs it is very important. So I think, you know, those are conversations the finance committee digs a little deeper in and then just comes up with what makes sense at the moment. So we talked a lot about property tax. We also get revenue from the road use tax fund. Now this goes into road use. It doesn't go into the general fund. But the city is projected to get $140 per person. And, they go by our last census population, which was 318 people. And so that calculates to be $422,000 that is gonna be coming from road use tax. And that's basically tax you pay on gas, comes back to cities.
Can we still do a mid-census like request if we feel like we're growing enough?
Yes, absolutely.
And do you feel like we've grown enough since 2020 that it's worth asking for or not?
That's a really good question because I feel that, cause we track our building permits and then we track the, some of the other populations, data populations to see where we're at. And so they have us just under 3,500
Okay,
right now. And so you gotta take that calculation times the 140 and your special census is gonna be pushing $100,000. So you have to weigh that. You know, the cost of going through the census, what kind of numbers and response are you gonna get from the census? And then here we're already at going into 27. So in 3 years, are we gonna be able to recapture that? So typically, if you're gonna do one, you wanna do it at the halfway of the 5-year mark. So it's something you need to be thinking about. Year 32, 33, should we be thinking about doing one at 35? Because that's really where you wanna be able to hit it at 35 so you can capitalize those next 5 years.
so right now, it probably doesn't make sense to.
Right now, it doesn't, not for Solon. Local option sales tax. So, we have seen a lot of, changes in local option sales tax with the addition of Tiffin last year. And then, Coralville, North Liberty and Iowa City just passed this and theirs, I think, goes into effect July 1st. So we did see a dip in 2025 when Tiffin came on. But now we're back on the upswing, projected to, get kind of back up to our range at 822 for this year. We'll see how the year shakes out. And then 2027, there's just too many variables out there right now. Everybody has their projections. Iowa City has theirs, North Liberty has theirs, Coralville has theirs. I'm just gonna hold out a little longer before I commit to a number there and kind of see, and let them get a little farther through their budgets. I would say that Iowa City is saying that we could see a 25% increase.
That'd be great.
So, Coralville's numbers aren't that good. So I'm just gonna, before we wrap up, we'll put something in there. I think probably for a safe bet, we'll put at least what we put in there this year, what we're gonna get this year. Again, we have, Tiffin obviously did impact things a little bit. So that's a tough one. Local option sales tax, is currently used to pay for the fire station bond and, Fifth Street bond. And then a lot of those dollars are what are in CDs right now and will ultimately go toward financing the new wastewater treatment plant. What you'll see in this budget is a increase, for water fees of 2% and sewer at 2%. In addition, you're gonna see an increase to the sewer debt that should actually be, it's $15 now. I forgot to change that. So we're currently have a sewer debt fee of $15 per month and a user fee of $5 per month. When Heidi's here next week, she's gonna run you through some scenarios, and then the council will need to decide what those fees are going to be as of July 1st. And those sewer debt fees and those user fees are fees directly tied to the meeting. So any fees we're collecting for either of those two, we are putting in reserves, and those are gonna go toward, our goal is to get a substantial, cash amount to put down on that project to reduce the amount that we have to borrow.
Sure.
Okay, that is the last slide for that, so I think what we're gonna do next is, I wanted to kind of run through the reserves. I think it's important for the council to kind of have a good understanding when we talk about the city's money, where it's at and then what it's for. So you have a reserve account sheet in front of you. And then the balance sheet behind it is the most current balance sheet. So what the city has is we have our checking account and we have what we call our high fire investments account. That's your checking and your savings. Those are your day-to-day checking and savings that we move money around as needed. But then in addition, we have accounts that are reserved. And this is for dollars that is reserved for a certain situation, or we're required to reserve it for a certain situation, or it's been designated by past councils for a certain situation. So what you see on this reserve account is monies that are currently set aside, and there's a description as to what they're set aside for. And then the balance sheet is attached to it. And so why this is important, so as we're getting through and talking through projects here, we may want to say, is this a, let's say, for example, this is going to come up. We need to replace some wood on the timber dome. Is there an opportunity to, rather than pull it out of the straight general fund budget, to look and see if there's some reserve accounts available to help cover that? So those are conversations that we'll have. So it's important that you understand what our reserve accounts are and what those balances are and what they can potentially be used for. And this is just kind of more of a cheat sheet because the balance sheet behind it is not always easy to follow or understand. All right, I think what I wanna do next is I just want to make the council aware that we have a capital equipment improvement plan. What's it say on the front of it? I don't think that's its official title, but. Yeah, capital equipment replacement schedule. That's also should be in your packet there.
Is it one statement?
It's
It's
down there a couple.
There we go. Yeah, so it's capital equipment replacement schedule. Just want the council to be aware that we have, as we go through and talk some expenditures, that we have a schedule where, Public Works, that's related specifically to Public Works, where we replace equipment and we, have a schedule, how many years out something's gonna last, when we're gonna replace it. When we get into the actual expenditures, we'll be talking about this more, but I just encourage you to take a look at this just so that you have an idea that, kind of how often we buy a dump truck or, a street sweeper and things like that. And then this lets us know how to plan year to year. So money is set aside each year so that we're always, planning for these big purchases, and then we have those big purchases scheduled. And this coming year, we're slated to purchase a street sweeper for $80,000, so. We're gonna have some shiny streets.
Sweet, yeah, he did. John Anderson, no, so.
All right, I think what we're gonna do is, Brody and Liz typically come in, and I always like to give them a chance to highlight their department, highlight, things that are going on in their department. We will look at each of their, departments, closer as we get through the process. But it's been a tradition and a good one for them to have the opportunity to have the council's attention and hear what's going on in their department, what their needs are for their department, and kind of highlight some of their special requests. So what you'll, I think Brody's ready to go. He has, what's his stuff that look like? Oh, it says recreation budget and activities. And he's put together just some general information for, about the department. And then he's just gonna explain some of the needs that you're gonna see in his budget.
I think I've met all of the newbies here, but I'm Brody Boland. I don't know if anyone's met Ethan, our rep coordinator. He wanted to swing by and just show me, face to face person here, but yeah, I only come to about 4 of these a year, so I try to give everyone kind of an overview of what's going on in Parks and Rec and kind of some of the new things we got going on. So kind of stuff that we just got done with and stuff that we're starting up is mainly basketball, our winter programs here. You can see there's in the girls basketball mainly, we did see a dip in participants this year. The school, I don't know if it's a school or the parents, but they started a girls basketball club group this year, so I think that's where we lost a few. Our kindergarten basketball starts next week, and we're sitting about what we were last year for that. But to kind of counteract that, we have added cheer and tumbling, and we in the last year got about 150 participants in that, so that more than kind of made up for some of those lost numbers there. We do all that at the old fire station in the old meeting room there. It's kind of a fun new activity for the kids, and then a high school girl in town runs it, so it's nice to, pay a high schooler from Solon here to run some of those activities. And after talking with Jill Wheatman and Solon Senior Support, we've added 3 new senior activities. They're all free activities. Every Thursday, we have senior social at the community center. We have coffee, and we just kind of chat, and some people come walk and whatever. And then every first Monday of the month, we now have a monthly movie in the community center in the auditorium. we just started that last month, so numbers are kind of small, but we've already seen a little bit of growth there. And then last week we started senior fitness classes. We had 19 yesterday. Those were Tuesdays, 12:30. So I was looking at my report last year, and at the end, it was I was talking about activities that we were looking to add, and one was senior activities, and we already added 3 in the last couple months here. So, and then some other new programs that we added this year. These are all free programs. We did Party at Pad. It was a big event at the end of the summer, kind of the last hurrah for the splash pad before kids went back to school. We had some food trucks and drink trucks down at the splash pad. Trucks. We handed out stickers and ice pops and some other stuff. I don't know, we had over 100 people there and just kind of chatted with some people down at the splash pad, just kind of, the different activities we want to see and things like that. So we do Tot Time. I don't know if you guys know this, but we do Tot Time every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at the community center in the morning from 10 to noon. It's $2 drop-in. It's for basically kids that aren't old enough to be in school yet. And we get inflatables out, boys, all that kind of stuff. This year, we, with the help of some local businesses, did a Tot Time Christmas Carnival. We had some carnival games. We did normal Tot Time. We had library story time. We had some extra activities and stuff. It was all free event, so we didn't charge anyone that day to come play. And we probably had 150 people that day. So the community center was just packed. This event, Wreck It, the rink, it was supposed to happen a couple weeks ago, but the ice rink has been kind of hit or miss. So next Monday, Ethan and I will be down there handing out hot chocolate. We got some stuff. If you want to play broom ball, it's kind of like an iteration of hockey without all the extra stuff. And we have ice skates. I use ice skates, so we got to play against sports, but we did get some nicer, newer ones. And we do check those out to people, but we're going to have them there down there for free. Anyone that wants to come can use them from 3 to 5 next Monday. And then with, some of the less participation numbers, did see a higher rate use of rentals at the community center. So we do rent it out for birthday parties and we rent it out for practices. So we went up almost $3,000 in revenue from rentals in the last year. There's a lot of volleyball practices, basketball practices, baseball, softball, all that stuff going on in the winter. So our gym calendar right now is just jam packed with our activities, rental activities, open gym activities. January, February is pretty busy actually down at the community center. So, and then I'll talk about this one later. Some other budgeting things I was going to bring up. It's kind of a joint request with the Parks Department, but a new drag for our ball diamonds. And I threw together a little collage of some of our newer activities. In tumbling, we do have an adaptive sports program. We get a handful of kids to sign up. Solon area, not all in Solon, but kids that have special needs and medical issues. We run the program. It's just a way for kids that couldn't normally get out and do some of these activities to come out and do them. Tiny Tots is something that I started when I got here. It's 3 and 4-year-old intro to sports. A lot of the kids that age, we don't have organized sports for just because I'm not going to ask some of the parents to try to run a practice or, we were already pretty struggling on, volunteer parents. Trying to have them run 3 and 4-year-old practice might be pretty tough. So we do all that, and it just gets the kids out and kind of gets them ready for the organized sports in the next year. There's a picture from one of our senior fitness classes the last couple weeks, and then a picture from the Festival Carnival event where the others had. Do you want me to jump right into the?
Yep.
All right. So in the budget worksheet, you're gonna have to go to page.
We better get that oriented. There's
Expenditures.
expenditure. And it says
budget.
expenditures on it's on what page?
And it will be page 4. Totally.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's parts, my bad.
It's in parts. It's in parts. Are you going through your budget or the equipment?
Oh, never mind. Yeah, it is on, I was right. It's on page 4. Right under parts, yeah. Okay, so most everything, like the salaries and all that, I kind of talked to Kimmy Lex and it stayed pretty much the same. She kind of helps with all that kind of stuff. The only lines on here that'll have any change, travel and conference will go up from 500 to 1,000. Every spring, the Iowa Parks and Rec Association holds a spring conference for us to go, just learn from other people around Iowa. And it's like a 3-day thing. We've gone the last couple of years to part-time, but I would say it's about $400 a person. So that's why I bumped that up, because now that Ethan's full-time, they charge us for that. When he was part-time, they didn't charge us for it. So that's the only reason that one's getting bumped up to $500. Building maintenance, we did bump that one up last year for resurfacing the gym floor, which has been awesome. We've gotten a lot of compliments on that. And I went prior years, and we honestly usually didn't spend a lot of money in that, but we've had 2 different AC units go out in the community center this year and a couple other things that were just out of our control. That's why we end up spending about $5,000 more than what we budgeted for. That's kind of the reason why I went from 7,500 to 8,000 next year, just so we have a little bit of cushion in there in case, a 100-year-old AC unit goes out again. And let's see.
And we've been either splitting those costs with the school or splitting them 3 ways between Jordan Creek, the
Yeah.
school and the city, depending on what part of the building it's on.
One of the big ones I think was AC unit down in the auditorium. I don't know if you guys have ever been down there. It's usually like 100 degrees. And I think the school and the church is the group that's down there the most, I guess. But after everyone was down there, it was wasting a lot of money, and it was very, very uncomfortable. So it was kind of something that just had to be fixed. Miscellaneous contract work went up a little bit. A lot of these new programs like tumbling and gymnastics, that's the fund that it comes out of. We never lose money on a program like this because we're paying someone to come in, and we split the sign-up fees 70-30. So they'll take 70% of the sign-up fees, we take 30. And so we're not losing money on any of these programs. We're just adding more of them. That's why that number is going up. We had a soccer camp last year that was run by one of the high school soccer coaches. Tumbling, cheer, that's all contracted out. I paid our reps. I would say almost every single person paid in miscellaneous contract work is a Solon person. So it's kind of nice to pay someone that lives in our community, I would say. Operating supplies and supplies were kind of the same thing. So we kind of lumped them into one, just the supplies line here, and it went up $250. That's where a lot of our concessions and any supplies that we would have to buy for like a camp or something like that comes out of. So it just went up a little bit just because the cost of things have been going up. Equipment went up $1,000. A lot of that's just bases, anything if we need a new basketball hoop or something like that, and the equipment costs every year go up, so I just bumped that up $1,000. And then sports expenses, I bumped up $1,000. That's where all of our t-shirt costs come out of, and some of our other expenses for like sports and other activities. And with the adding of activities, that's adding of more t-shirt purchases and some other purchases there. That's all that's on here that has changed. The other item, and Kimmy can kind of help me with this, and maybe Public Works here. The one main piece of equipment that I've kind of been thinking out the last 3 years I've been here, before I got here, we put a lot of money into the baseball field. We have.
Which one? The high school baseball field?
No, just the park in
Right,
general.
okay. Thank you.
There's fields 1 and 2.
One,
that we
two,
did
well,
last
all of them
year.
actually, one,
Or
two,
we
four,
got-
one, two, three, four, all got redone, and then we got dugouts for 3 and 4.
Sure.
We have 2 drags, and they are old, and they like to quit on us all the time. So, we're calling Chris or Ryan or whoever, hey, we're dead on the infield, we need someone to come get this drag off here. And I don't know, we can kind of, if you want to just kind of show the video here, this is kind of what I was looking at.
I gotta go back and.
It would be a multi-use machine, I guess. You can drag, you can seed, you can fertilize, you can edge the outfields. In-house. Maybe I'll fast forward it a little.
Oh, bro.
So essentially, it's the field groomer slash field grader slash fertilizer slash seeder slash a lot of things. There's other brands. This is one I just saw when we went to Nevada and we did a walkthrough of all their facilities and their parks, and they had one and they had just great reviews on it. They are starting at like 30 to 40,000. So that's why I kind of talked to Kami about splitting it between parks and rec, parks and rec, because it would be a shared machine between the two of us, and it can free up a lot of public works guys in the summer. Because Ethan or I could just jump on this and do some of the things that they would normally do, I guess. And I've never asked for a $40,000 something, so this is a new one for me. So that's why I had Kami helping me on it.
Are we paying for outside people to do any of this work?
Um,
Is this some contract work at all or no?
no,
Not what- no.
no, I don't,
I would say anything that we pay for is probably coming out of the parks.
we have paid, when we redid the fields, we paid a guy to like laser grade all the fields, and he would essentially come back every so many years. We haven't had him come back yet because they just
Yeah,
went 2 years ago.
where I'm getting at is if we're paying somebody from the outside to come in X amount of dollars a year, it helps make a better decision.
Mhm.
Well, and one of the reasons I wanted you to see that we have a capital replacement schedule is that this is not in it.
Sure. No.
So,
understand.
but I think what the group has decided is maybe it should be.
Sure.
And if there's not an ability to get it into in one swoop, then maybe we can put some money in years for it.
Is there a dealer in Iowa?
Yeah, there's one, out of Ankeny.
Oh, okay, all right, so somebody's close, we're not getting it from Mars.
Is there,
No,
because of how short term you use it, is there a lease or rental on it?
that, we haven't really looked at that yet, but that's something that we look into.
It can be used for more,
Like
for
land-
multiple other uses than just for using it. So you could put it to use in other aspects, not
Mhm.
just down at SRNA, but you could use it on other properties throughout parks.
You guys have a place to put it. We don't want to sit outside.
Put it, where we, the concession shed, where we keep.
Right.
those old-
Essentially, this would be replacing the two groomers we have, so they could sit where they sit.
Sure. Gotcha.
Probably smaller.
Yeah.
You're talking about a twofer.
I've only been here 3 years, and I don't know, when's the last time we've spent nice money on like a groomer?
We don't.
Yeah, so I didn't.
So it would replace a couple other pieces of equipment, basically.
Is the groomer you have now just the drag and pull behind the tractor?
Yeah, and we have two. One didn't work like all summer, and the other one would die on us here and there. So, and they were expensive by any means from what I heard.
No, I mean, the one we've had longer than I've been here, Dave, you probably.
I don't believe we ever paid any money
Yeah,
for them.
and the other one we got off the deals.
Maybe $250 off. They're,
And I mean, we put all them, I don't know how much money was put into those fields before I got here, but I think.
So I know this is a tough question because of time and use, whatever, but
Yeah,
is there a longevity on it?
that,
I mean, we're not in Florida, where it's gonna be used every day, that part I
yeah,
get.
and that's why I wanted to sit down with Public Works and ask them how much, because if it was just for dragging the fields, just solely to drag
Sure.
fields, then it wouldn't be worth the money. But if it's something, I think you can aerate the grass and stuff.
That makes sense.
So it's a multi-use machine, that's why
I would just ask from a common sense standpoint to look into longevity of the thing.
Mhm.
So
And I could reach out to like Nevada, who has one, and ask how long.
That's
they've had
fair,
it.
right, Kenny? I can,
Absolutely.
Do we know if, does the school have something that's similar? Cause I know, cause the girls softball team, we just had that three-wheel
That's.
tractor.
Yeah, that's all I got.
That's what we have.
It's the same thing.
And then-
Is there any, would there be any chance that they would maybe wanna rent it from us?
Well, so.
I wouldn't be in favor of that.
No?
This-
Okay.
The school, what the school does, at least for the baseball field, they contract all that stuff out through
Craft,
Craft.
yeah, Craft, yeah.
He's got all that kind of stuff, so.
I think that makes sense.
And one thing to offset, just one second, Dave, if you look at, as there's an increase in number of club teams too, and Spartan Ball Club is growing and other club teams too, it does feel, and you probably know facts better than feelings coming from me, but their fields are getting rented more often as well, and so part of that rental cost is the maintenance on the fields and things like that, so I do feel like this could.
Thank you, because I was gonna bring it up, because I can confirm, I have seen what you use in your produce. And I have used it myself, and it's atrocious. The fields, I would say, since you come in, have dramatically gotten better. Because I know that they were left alone for quite a long time, and that lime had hardened and almost formed into concrete. It took a lot to bust it up.
Yeah.
And there were holes and there were large rocks. I mean, Rhea and Kate played softball on those
Yep.
fields. And so I think this is a need that you need. I'm not saying, the $40,000 need.
Yeah.
But if we can, to Dan's point, if we can look into this, make it feasible, increase rental fees for those club teams, because there is a ton of them in the area. We don't have enough field space in Solon for all the club teams. And we can make it work that way to where it's somewhat covering itself. I mean, yeah, I think you're headed down the right direction. I just answered Greg's question about the longevity of it. And for me, yeah, I'd want to see what the reflected rates on the rental for field rental would be.
I'm sorry to cut you off, Dave.
Well,
yeah, sorry.
It was just back to the longevity of it. So that's all gonna depend on who operates it.
The maintenance, I think we do a really good job of maintaining our equipment for. Some of the issues with those old, those old things are worth anything, but. Sometimes it's the operator that's. That's the issue, and it's not you. That's why I'd be in favor of, if we wanna do something like that, it's ours, it's our responsibility. Exactly, so that way you don't have that.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Something too, we could look at to help offset the cost is, we want to do some type of tournament fundraiser, where it's, hey, it's come, the proceeds from this tournament are gonna help fund this to further maintain the fields, do something, like, there's ways that we can look at bringing in some revenue,
Yeah.
help offset it as well, but I think between the questions that we've had, and do we purchase it this year, do we set money aside this year and purchase it next year, combine a couple of years, or however we may do that, but definitely, I think there's a lot of attention and eyes on our fields and facilities in general with it, and I think just from talking to coaches from other cities, Solon's a spot that they want to come to, and I feel like just based on the charm that the town has, what we have to offer, the character, everything, it's something that everybody takes pride in. When somebody from outside of Solon comes to Solon, just to hear that good review, it's something too that there's just a huge amount of pride in this town. With it, and it's not, we wouldn't be doing this just for people outside of town, but we also have a sense of pride where we want to have nice facilities, we want to be playing on nice facilities, we don't want to be, we're having to fix equipment every time we. have to run it,
Yeah,
things
the
like that.
fields are kind of our baby in the summer, the baseball, softball, that's kind of all we have going on in the summer, T-ball. On a Thursday, we have 4 games going on at the same time on each field and fields in the grass. It's nice to get all those fields prepped without any hiccups. Because like I said, we'd have one die on us all the way on the other side of the park. I'd be calling Chris at 4:15 or Ryan at 4:30 when they're at home. Hey, can someone come down here and try to figure out how to get this thing going again? Because it's not starting. Or it died on us. So, but yeah, that's kind of what I have on it.
I'm glad you brought it up, to be honest with you.
No problem.
What about have a heart attack when he brought it up to me? I'm like, 40,000. I said, oh, that's funny,
Just 'cause I'm a little
$40,000.
bit Experience with all that stuff, price didn't shock me at all.
Yeah,
Not at all.
well, I think the base price is cheaper than 40, but they said all the attachments, it's kind of what do we need right at the beginning for the attachments to put on it, you know?
Much like Tim said, I looked in if they have a lease to buy off too.
Mhm.
I do some homework on that.
Yeah,
If-
yeah.
if you guys think that this is something that's important, that it's gonna help us, maybe save some man hour to whatever it is. Get your ducks in a row and see where we're at.
And we're gonna look at, Toro, another brand, because that's where, they got their last mower.
Sure.
And just see if, you know, we buy mowers from them, if we get
Yeah.
a deal or something.
Thanks, Brody.
I had a question in terms of vehicles, just overall for like public works and like when you guys go to replace your Colorado or whatever, are we eligible for state bid pricing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think it's as good as they do.
No, it's not as good, but we.
Okay.
Yeah.
You explore.
Well, I didn't know. If
No, no,
maybe
no,
there
good
was,
idea. No.
maybe there was a
Some-
vendor out
sometimes
there.
I
Feel
don't-
better.
Sometimes don't and get caught. I mean, they realize, they just spent more than what we should have.
Yep.
Yeah, the last couple trucks, I think we got better than state bid.
Local dealers like the business, no doubt about that.
Thank you, Brody. So we're gonna move on to the library. So in your packet, you have, the, information that was provided. It says Solon Public Library preliminary FY 27 budget. It's got some yellow highlights on it.
Yeah.
And then,
And I assume the numbers have been transferred into this
they
May,
have,
but I don't know, it's probably easier to go through it on this, if that's okay.
what you're gonna see in the actual expenditure report is, the. Just like here, but. A lot of numbers I look at, so what you're gonna see, Liz, is that the numbers that are in the actual report, expenditure report. Do not reflect the increase from part-time to full-time. And then I think the change from the insurance might have been a little different, so you might just wanna have them side by side.
Okay,
The packet would reflect column O on.
on my sheet, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I.
They're gonna be a little different,
Okay.
and Liz will kind of walk through her requests.
That's page 7, sorry.
Yeah,
It's page.
bottom of page 2,
Sorry.
on to page, halfway down page 3. And just for a little, because I should have done this in the beginning, you're gonna be looking at the requested column on that budget worksheet page. The first column is what was spent last year. The original budget and amended budget are the same, that's what's budgeted this year. And then the actual through January is what's been spent actually so far this year. So you're gonna be looking at the requested column.
I was looking at that.
So look at the requested column, that's what's being requested for for the FY 27 budget. But then this provides last year's information, this year's budget, and what we spent so far this year. So I should have explained that earlier.
And one question, so with the budget worksheet, these numbers are, some of them are lower. Does the budget worksheet reflect the county's contribution as well, or is this?
The reason it's lower is because Liz is asking to, change a position from full-time to part-time. And so the budget reflects her current staffing, and so that would be a change that we would make. If council's supportive of that, then I'd need to do some calculations to see what that would cost, as far as wages, benefits across the board.
You said from full to part?
I'm sorry, part-time to full. And then the other difference in here was, I think the insurance was maybe just a little bit different than what you had was.
Okay, and I definitely just like tried to put in what you told me to do, so I'm sure your insurance numbers are more accurate than what I was with.
Yeah, and I'm still working on estimates too from the agent. Okay.
Okay, so, I met all of you and of course I am here every time, so I give your updates every month about library activities. Certainly if anybody has any questions about that, I'll be happy to answer that. But we can get to this first, and then if there's any other general library questions, I'll be happy to answer. Okay, so if we are on the salaries under library services. So that number is the same in my column O as you're flipping back and forth. And again, just like Bertie said, Cami gives us those numbers as to what we're thinking COLA is going to be and what we're thinking merit is going to be. And so that is just a straight calculation for me of what was last year's budget. And then I put in that percent change based on what Cami tells us, most likely it's going to be. I think those are consistent, I think, through there, and then the FICA and the IFRS, I think that's all still consistent, it matches pretty much.
Which one?
The IFRS, slightly, I have 25,783, you have 25,790, but maybe that's just a rounding thing.
Unless be on the wrong page, because I've got each one
It starts at the bottom of page 2.
Oh, okay.
That's all.
Yeah, you're looking at the
That's
bottom, it's
my
Department 4410 Library Services.
Did you find it, Andrew?
Like, I don't know, why that function on some.
Okay.
Yes.
Under the budget, so that's.
No, I
This
think
is-
it's easier.
that's like, that starts down here.
Insurance, so.
And then, so you're gonna look at these numbers.
But yes, I.
Oh, that's right.
That's why I asked.
There it is. Oh, here we go. So they're gonna start here, and then when you. Got it? Everybody got it?
This is. We can just.
Right now, I got you, okay. That
Everybody
makes sense,
good?
I was like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so once we get through the salaries and IFRS, and then I don't have I guess I do have the group insurance also, so that's there. And again, that might be where it's slightly different. And then we get into budgetary line items that we actually then have expenditures for based on our business. So we've got our 60 to 100 dues, memberships, magazines, newspapers. That's where we take out, and you can see that in my comments, all those different types of subscriptions we have for the library, professional memberships, our Swank movie license, our adventure pass that we offer. That's where those types of expenses come from. We just went up slightly based on previous expenses to be able to match those as prices continue to go up. Our travel and conference, we're gonna stay flat. That has worked well for us. A lot of times we end up being able to find free or very low cost training, but it's nice to have that budget in case something does come up that will really assist one of our staff members or multiple staff members in developing their professional skills. Building maintenance, we've been keeping that at the 10,000 for all of the years that I've been here. And then within that typically is where we have our $5,000 go towards our reserve account. Tammy briefly went over that list of reserve accounts. One of them is for building and maintenance needs for the library. So each year, assuming that we've got funds left, $5,000 gets transferred from our general fund budget into that reserve account. Just repair, we are in a 25-year-old building, and we've got 25-year-old furnaces and all kinds of things that eventually will probably need to be replaced. So we're very grateful for that reserve to continue building. Our ordered vehicle equipment, we don't actually have vehicles, so that is where we put all of our technology. So when we have to buy new computers or software licensing or hardware, that's where all of that comes from. So that's also our licensing for our catalog system, those types of things. So that, again, we're staying flat there. That should work just fine. Yesterday was our 1-year anniversary of our new catalog system, and we are just thrilled with it. It's so much easier for staff to use and for patrons. So that was a transition we did last year, and that has worked really well for us. Utilities, we, as long as the sun shines and our solar panels are not covered by snow, we are usually able to cover everything except for those flat fees for electricity. So that's been a huge savings for us. Each year I look at where have we been the year before and sort of look, okay, I think we can continue to do this and keep it reasonable and count on those solar panels to help us with that. Telephone, internet, again, pretty standard. I just look at how we've been spending and put it where it should be. We're able to stay flat on both of those based on previous data. Databases, there's fewer that we have right now, so we actually came down on that budget. There's just not as many that we're offering, and they also don't get a lot of use. So the ones that we have, we're happy with. But each year we look at, okay, are people actually using this? One of the ones we got rid of last year was Tumble Books. It just wasn't something that our community was using, and so there's no point in paying that annual fee if people aren't really using it. We do still see usage of our transparent language app, so that's a nice database, and we have a few others that we offer. This next insurance, that 64080, is building insurance, and that may be one that also looks slightly different between my spreadsheet. Oh, nope, that actually one is very close. And that again is Tammy's best guess of what we should put in for increase for the library building. Publishing, the only advertising we do is in the Solon Economist. We try to do about 4 a year. We want to support the local paper. They support us. They let us have space every week for our library column, so we definitely want to do that. But again, keep it balanced with, we want to be good stewards of our funds. That is what that 800 is for, is just any type of support that we do for the Solon Economist. Educational program, we're staying flat there. Our programming librarians are exceptional in what they're able to do with the budget they have and the number of programs that they offer. As I mentioned in our annual report, we are exceeding the 75 percentile market output for libraries that are twice and 3 times our size. So we are a Class D library. We are in the percentiles on our state report where we're equaling or exceeding size E and size F libraries in terms of number of programs, number of circulations. So I'm very proud of our group for managing that budget and providing so many different activities for our community. Library books, I did put an increase there. I think I talked about a couple different city council meetings that Baker and Taylor, who was our longtime book supplier, went out of business. And there truly is not a replacement in terms of the same discounts and free shipping. So this is just my best guess of, in order to continue to have the number of books that we're bringing in each year with the new vendors that we're working with, this is just my best estimate of what is that 9%. See your library video, we're keeping flat. That is not only physical DVDs, but then also our Canopy streaming service. So those are the 2 things that we take out of that. We also purchase, if we have some DVD players you can check out. We also have portable DVD players you can check out. So that all comes out of that line item, but that is staying flat. Then library audio. We still buy some audio CDs. Believe it or not, people are still listening to audiobooks on CD. Some people still have that in their cars, but we are definitely transitioning to, and the bulk of the expense are now electronic versions of both ebook and audiobooks. So that comes out of that budget. And then Lily is in the process of switching from audio CD for youth to the Vox. And I don't know if anybody has seen Vox books, but it's a standalone. So the book has the recorded device in the book. So it doesn't require a separate CD player. And so it's all in one. Kiddos can be listening and reading through the book at the same time. And that just seems like a good move for our community in terms of that collection. So that is why we went up. The $1,200 there was to be able to start building and maintaining that collection in the new Vox Playway options. Puzzles, puppet kits. Puzzles are pretty obvious. Puppet kits, we've got all those variety of kits where you can get a puppet and a book. We've got story time kits. This is also where our Library of Things budget lives. So our sewing machine and our gardening tools and our ukulele, that is that line item. And so we're keeping that flat. Operating supplies, those are the consumables. So anything that we use up to do regular business. Because of our new printer lease, our costs have actually gone down in this line item because we don't have to buy toner anymore. Our main patron printer and copier, it's all part of our lease that we get free replacements for the toner. So that's been a great savings. So that's why I was able to take that down $2,000. Postage, I'm just leaving flat. Supplies, think we just went up $25 just based on what we've used before. That supplies line item is staff appreciation, volunteer appreciation. Sometimes we'll have activities or learning activities where we maybe are buying some snacks or something to be able to do that. That's what comes out of that line. And then our office equipment, that is where our printer lease is. And then also anything durable that we're purchasing, that we're using a laminator, those types of things. And so, like I said, that Gordon Flush printer has been a really great option for us, that lease option. And makes it very manageable, and we know what that payment's gonna be every month, and so that is great. So that's our initial ask. Does anybody have any questions on any of those line items?
The telephone internet through South Slope,
We are actually ICN for our internet, but South Slope for telephone. And we do have South Slope as a backup, but it's worked really well because many times South Slope will go down and we've still got internet, so then people can come and use the internet at the library through the ICN.
Liz, could you talk through just a little bit, with the reclassifying the part-time to full-time? I know we talked a little bit about potential full-time a year ago, just I don't want to go through your thoughts and
Yes.
reasoning behind that.
Yes, so I'm looking at, as our community continues to grow and we continue to stretch ourselves thinner and thinner, and part of that is me personally, it would be very nice to have a true assistant library director. So that then I don't feel like I have to be at everything and I don't have to maybe be doing all of the 50, 60-hour weeks forever. And the more I started to think about it, I thought, okay, what type of functions would that assistant director do? What would that look like in our library? And when I started thinking about all the technology, the communication, the training, that's when I realized there's actually a position that's already doing this. It's just that now to make it an official, also then they would be assisting in various things that the library director does and be able to step up and take over if for some reason the library director is not here. And so by having that position be full-time, then that makes it much more possible that they are going to be able to step in and take over if for some reason someone's gone, even if it's just a sick leave or a vacation or anything like that, just to have that second person who does have that authority and that connection to be able to assist that way. And I'm working on, I have a draft job description of that position that I will be presenting to the library board at our January meeting. And then I would plan to bring that to you once they have approved it, since they have the oversight of the library staffing.
What's the current protocol now if you go on vacation?
It's sort of anybody who answers the phone, which is
Okay.
not to say that they can't do that. The staff is exceptional. So anybody, for the most part, can answer a question. It's just that there's not a single person. And our one other full-time person is our youth services librarian, and their plate is incredibly full with managing all those youth collections and the programming. And so to add potentially that extra level of, oh yes, and you need to be in charge if I'm not here or the library director's not here, I don't think that's a good extra weight on that position.
Okay. Just one more thing,
Sure.
and I should know this because I'm in there all the time. But how many full-time employees do you have now and how many part-time employees do you have?
We have two, so myself and our youth services librarian are the only full-time.
Is that Lily?
Yes.
Okay,
And then the other four, so we have Megan, Christian, Michael, and Sherry are all part-time.
okay, thank you.
Yes, yes. And then the other, I should wait, does anybody else have any other questions? I was just gonna point out, if we go back to my packet, as you may or may not know, we are the one city department that also brings in county revenue. So something to keep in mind is that for every ask that we have in our budget line, depending on circulation, so this second page you have here, this shows the funding formula. Johnson County sends this out to me every year and asks us to figure out what is the ratio of checkouts that are happening for people in city limits and people that are Johnson County rural residents. Based on that, they then incorporate into their budget their portion of our library budget. So this year, when they do a 3-year average, so it's 44% of the population that we're checking out to right now are rural Johnson County. And so their portion of that initial ask, that column O, would be the $200,860. And if I did the quick math for the full-time position, that 44%, then the county would cover $209,849. And the city's portion would be $267,740 of that ask. So we are unique in that, and we're very grateful to the county for that support, that they recognize how important it is for everyone to have access to public libraries.
You get much for volunteer work, like for you off of someone to work or no?
We have a volunteer policy that states that volunteers will not do anything that paid staff are there to do, but we definitely have a very active volunteer group. We have both teens and adults, and we're very grateful for that. But our policy does state that we are not ever going to have volunteers do jobs that is paid responsibility, just to keep those lines clean in terms of.
What does that mean?
So we will not have volunteers working at the circulation desk. Like, some people might think, oh, we could just sub in volunteers and then we don't need to pay people any longer. But those functions that require training and professional education to be able to accomplish working the circulation desk, patron privacy, running a program, managing a collection, those are all things that paid staff do, not that volunteers do. Volunteers will come and assist with programs. They will help us line out readed books. They'll help us get preps ready for programs. They will help us.
So your staff doesn't do that otherwise?
No, well, it just depends.
Well, because
no.
you just said that the
Right.
staff doesn't, they
Correct.
can't do any tasks staff does, so
Right.
also the staff doesn't ever do those tasks.
That is a very good question. So if something absolutely has to be done, then the staff will get it done. A good example would be, we have a volunteer who comes in every Friday, and one of his activities is taking apart our Legos that have been on display for a week, and we need to get them back in circulation. So we save those for him. If he doesn't come, we still need to have that happen.
But
So,
the policy says that he can't do that then, right?
yeah, that's a good question. I will have to look at that and see. You bring up a very good point. So I guess my interpretation of it was that we wouldn't ever expect a volunteer to do the level of work that a staff member does. But you're right, there are things that staff members need to do potentially because we don't have enough volunteers to do those things.
But if it's a student that's trying to earn silver core hours, they should be able to do some of those jobs too.
They definitely will do the Legos. They will do the lining out of books. They will not be sitting at the circulation desk and working on those types of things. They will not be cataloging items for us. We have a staff member dedicated to cataloging. So, and they won't be planning programs, but they certainly could be helping with them. So we definitely had, I think, 10 volunteers at our New Year's Eve program, managing the different tables. Lily did all the planning, decided what each table activity would be. We had volunteers, both teen and adult, working those different stations because we just didn't have enough staff to be able to cover all of them. So that allows us to do that. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think you just, like, you know, the volunteers, what you're saying is that they're just not gonna sit at the desk and go and do the daily public engagement.
Right, and the daily,
Full-time or part-time employees would do, you know,
yes,
they're gonna do kind of the busy work and the things that help you guys out, get stuff
yes,
done administratively around, but not. Yeah, not be a representative necessarily to the public on behalf of the library.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great way to state it. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks for this.
Question. Thank you.
Right, so I think where we're at next in the big picture is to, right now, where we're at in the current expenditures and revenues, there's a recap that you have in your packet. It says FY 26, but it should say FY 27. I just didn't update the have time to update, as we're worried on the content and the label and the title. So this is a snapshot of kind of where we are. So if you take everything in your expenditures and everything in your revenues and you add and subtract, this is kind of where we're sitting right now. General fund does have a bit of a surplus, but there are some to talk about as we go through these reports that are not in this budget, so we'll have to talk about those, including the cost of adding a full-time employee for the library, the field groomer that Brody had mentioned. There's a box in the middle of this that has local options, sales tax, TIF, property tax, and debt service. Those have to do with our bond payments, and I'm still working on those. So I just wanted to highlight that those boxes, I just haven't completely finished, but I'll have those ready for the next meeting. And especially with Heidi coming at the next meeting, she'll be reviewing all of our long-term debt bonds and strategies, and then I'll have that complete for then. So what this shows me at this first pass through is that there may be some opportunity within the general fund to look at some wants. There's road use is sitting at a bit of a deficit. However, we do have some surplus. If you went to the balance sheet behind the reserves, you'll see that we do have a balance in that fund that can help cover that, depending on what we want to do for other projects. Overall, what I'm seeing here is I don't see anything that is dire or concerning. There's a lot to work through as we go through this, so this sheet will change. There's decisions that are going to be made as we go through this that's going to impact the sheet, these numbers on this sheet. The other two reds, the $800,000 it's just, as you look, there's an 803,000 surplus and there's an 800,000 deficit. That's just a transfer that has to happen. We're required by state to pay things out of certain funds. So if you look at the general fund, the trusted agency accounts, road use, local options, sales tax, these are each considered their own, basically, account. And there are limitations on how we can move money in between these accounts. There's limitations on how this money can be spent. And we'll go through that as we talk through the full reports. So I think for tonight, it doesn't make sense to start digging deep into these. As you know, being 7:30, this is where we'll pick up on Thursday. So we'll have the regular meeting. And then we'll have a budget workshop as part of the regular meeting, but it'll be at the end of the regular meeting. And then again, we'll have Heidi coming also to talk. So that'll be part of that budget session. So what we'll do at the next meeting is we will go through and look at all the revenues, and I'll highlight any that I think are notable. And then the expenditures are really where we spend the time, is we look at each department similar to what we did with Brody and Liz, but there's a lot of other departments, and we just look and see what's changed, what needs to be changed, why it's changed, and then based on decisions that the council makes, then that impacts this page, and it also may impact that levy certification page. That's how they all tie together.
That's how the cookie crumbles.
Sound good? Well, I want to thank everybody, especially this side of the table, because they have put a lot of work into helping get all these numbers ready for you and all these packets ready for you. So everybody, all staff, and hopefully the work we've done is going to help make your hard decisions a little easier. At least you'll have information you need to make those decisions. So thank you.
Before I ask for a motion to adjourn, I just wanted to echo Kaylee's thoughts. So Thank you, Liz and Brody, for walking through your budgets tonight. Ethan, thanks for coming in and just doing a intro with everybody. I know a lot of times it's, like, if we see your face, it's down at the field, then not necessarily in here, so I appreciate you coming in tonight, and then again for the public works guys as well, and the city office staff. I know it's a ton of work that goes into it. The fact that we're talking potential once on top of the needs with it. You guys do a great job preparing the budget for us to then make the tough decisions of what extras do we get with that, or do we get, and thank you for lining up dinner tonight as well, so. With that, looking for a motion.
Move to adjourn.
Second. We'll go motion by Farlinger, we'll get Morris on the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Meeting adjourned.